So now without further delay, let's begin today's event. Sponsored by Intuit Client Connection Suite and hosted by Accounting Today. It's my pleasure to introduce your moderator for today, and that is Roger Russell. Roger, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Hello and welcome to today's web seminar, Streamlining Your Workflow, Modernizing Document and Payment Collection for you and your clients. Today's event is sponsored by Intuit Client Connection Suite and hosted by Accounting Today. Joining us for today's session are Steve Wheelis and Jackie Meyer. Steve is the Senior Product Manager and Creator of Intuit Link. In addition, he's also the co-creator of Intuit Tax Online. Steve is an industry expert focusing on finding ways to help accountants solve long-standing tax workflow problems. Jackie is a CPA and is president and founder of Meyer Tax Consulting, LLC in Southlake, Texas. She and her team work with a number of executives, investors, entrepreneurs, and small businesses throughout the year on tax preparation, planning, and accounting services. Welcome, Jackie and Steve. And before we begin, just a few housekeeping rules regarding CPE. Source Media, Inc. is pleased to be able to offer CPE for this web session. It is imperative that you adhere to the following instructions to obtain CPE credit. 1. To receive credit, you must be in attendance for a minimum of 50 minutes. Accounting Today is not responsible for late arrivals or connections issues. 2. There will be required polling questions asked periodically throughout the sessions, all of which you must answer. Please remember to click Submit after choosing your answer. 3. If you have completed the above, please allow up to 5 business days from date of today's session to receive an email from sourcemedia@webinarcerts.com. This email will contain instructions on how you can download and print your CPE certificate. Please note, CPE certificates will only be sent to those attendees who stayed for at least 50 minutes and answered all required polling questions. Please email any certificate questions to sourcemedia@webinarcerts.com. Steve, would you like to start us off by telling us about today's agenda?
Yeah, thank you, Roger. So Intuit's a customer-focused, design-driven technology company. Our goal is to save you time and help you create better experiences for your customers. I don't have to tell you guys how stressful tax season can be. You have 2.5 months to make a high percentage of your revenue for the year. There are 2 reasons why we're excited about what data collection and finish and file can do for your practice. Number 1, we want to save you time, and it's important to save you seconds and minutes on activities. That's very helpful. But what we've observed by watching firms is that work piles up during tax season. So how can we help reduce the work in progress? Imagine being able to complete everything that you pick up during the day or during the week. I believe that less starts and stops in your workflow can reduce your work in progress, and this will not only save you time, it will help reduce stress. The second thing that's exciting is both of these activities, data collection and finish and file, they involve your client. And I know, and we at Intuit know, you'll bend over backwards for your clients. If we create awesome experiences for your clients, can you provide better service with less effort? So today I'm going to show you how Link and eSig work with Lacert. There's similar integration with Tax Online, and we'll be releasing this for Pro Series this year as well. So I'll start with a demo of the end-to-end workflow in Link. Then I'm going to show you the experience for eSig. And then next, Jackie will share her experience this past season using these solutions and share some tips and best practices with you. We'll conclude with a Q&A. Please feel free to submit your questions via chat during the presentation, and we'll try to address all your questions at the end. So today, the Client Connection Suite is basically bringing Intuit Link and eSig together because they work well, and both of them are designed to save you time and also make your clients happier. So I'm going to get right into Intuit Link. The demos are going to show tax software, and as you guys know, there's a lot going on with tax software, so I recommend maximizing the view for the display. There's a rectangle up at the top right, and you can click that, and it'll be easier to see. So if we start with Intuit Link, on average, tax professionals spend more than half their time, 65% of their time on data collection and data entry, and we're working to reduce that time by half. The first place we're starting is on data collection, which we found is almost half that time, about 30%, and you have the least amount of control over that. What Intuit Link is going to do for you, it's going to quickly create and send a personalized digital checklist that's based on the prior year tax return. Your taxpayers are going to be able to log in from their computer or a mobile device and share all of the tax data and answer any questions you have, all do that securely. And then I'll show you the dashboard so you know when you have all the client data and documents you need to start the return. So let's get started. But before we do that, we have a poll question.
Okay, Steve. This polling question, there are multiple answers available, so you can click on more than one. The question is, what tax software do you use currently? Lacert, ProSeries, Intuit Tax Online, Drake, UltraTax, ProSystem FX, ATX, TaxWise, TaxAct, TurboTax, or H&R Block. We'll give you a couple of seconds, 15 seconds to fill that out. And don't forget to click the Submit. After you answer the question by filling in that little square, click the Submit button to make sure that we can tabulate that and also that you get credit for registering. Okay, I have a feeling it what needs well. Okay, Steve, the majority of them of our respondents do use Lacert, ProSeries, or Intuit Tax Online. With some others, you want to take a look at that and address the results?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Looks like we have a lot of representation across all the products. I think the great thing is, regardless of the product you use, I think these are big problems that everybody's dealing with. And like I said, with Lacert, ProSeries, and Intuit Tax Online, these are both going to be integrated with Link and eSig this year. So.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
All right, so when we look at Intuit Link, I'm going to split this into 3 areas. So this first is the accounting experience, then the invite. So if you want to think about the paper world, this is printing out your organizers, putting them in the mail, putting stamps on it, sending them off. I've actually seen taxpayers receive organizers, and it's not a pleasant experience for them. I'll show you a much better taxpayer experience next. And then I don't know the experience you have in your office, but what we continue to see is about 10% of the organizers are coming back. So it ends up being a really expensive marketing that maybe is not showing what you want to show with your firm. So I'm going to split it into the 3 sections here. It's going to be sending the invite, then we'll go into what the taxpayer sees, and then we'll get into the results and how you experience that. All right, so once again, expand the view as much as you can to see this. This is the Lacert client list. All your clients are listed. This year we're introducing batch invitations. So here I have 1 client selected, but you can select multiple. Select a client and go to the Tools menu, Intuit Link, and Invite Client. And there's also a way to invite from the client list. We put put a column in here to handle that. So that's going to get it kicked off and started. So take charge of your season with Intuit Link. We have Learn More that can give you tips, but if you hit Get Started, it goes right into the workflow. So the workflow contains 4 key components. So you have a letter, basically an email that's going to go to your client, and you can customize this right in the center. Down at the bottom left, there's an engagement letter that you can edit and select to not include. There's a questionnaire and a checklist. And I'm going to go through the setup of each of these. But one cool thing about Link is if you have everything set up the way you want it, it's basically 2 clicks. You pick Link and then click on Invite and it goes. Today we're going to go deep into how to set up all the areas, but it's pretty simple to get it going. Next, I'm going to show you the engagement letter. So if you click on the engagement letter, here you can edit, or if you already have engagement letters set up at the top of that where you see the single window default, you can select multiple different engagement letters you already have set up in Lacert with the organizer. So after you edit the engagement letter or select one you already have and hit done, it's going to take you back to the workflow. And next I'm going to show you the questionnaire. So if you click on Edit on the questionnaire, you'll see all the questions, and once again, this is pulling in from the organizer. Up at the top, you can have multiple questionnaires you have set up. You can pull them in. If you want to edit it on an individual basis, you can do it right here by clicking on delete or change the type of question. You can add more questions. And the purpose of the questionnaire, as you guys know, is to determine any tax changes year to year. Where the checklist, which we'll get into next, is give us the documents that we know that you have, and then use the questionnaire to figure out where you need to dig deeper or if there's anything of interest from a tax perspective. So after you set up the questionnaire and close that, we save that, and then lastly you can click on the checklist and click Edit on that. So when we looked at the engagement letter and the questionnaire, that for the whole group that you have selected, it's all the same. We changed the orientation here a little bit for the checklist because this is customized based on each tax return. So if you have multiple clients, they're all going to be listed down the left-hand column. And as you select clients, you can see what's been pulled in from the tax return. In this example, they had a W-2 from Intuit, a 1099 int from Bank of America, and a 1099 from Fidelity. From here, if you wanted to delete any of those items, if you knew they didn't apply, you could delete them here. And also up at the top, there's an Add New Document. So if you knew there was something else you needed, you can add that in. We've expanded the things that we're asking for this year in the Lacert integration, and we basically doubled the amount of tax items available. All right, so now that we have Link set up, we've got the engagement letter, the invitation letter, the questionnaire, and checklist. The last thing to do is to invite. So you click on Invite. And this sets up, sends a request, and then we'll give you back, once it's done, we give you progress. So everything's been sent here, and then we'll get back to this, but what you can do is follow the client's progress, view the documents, and see the status and track questions. So you're done there. You can do it in a couple of clicks. And, you know, if you think about comparing that to going to the post office and all that, it's much simpler, and it's going to be very robust. So if we look at the taxpayer experience, it's going to start out, your taxpayer will receive an email from you, the same thing that you put in at the beginning. The reply on this email goes to your firm. The taxpayer clicks on the link, and they're going to simply sign in, put their email address and password, We recommend putting a mobile phone in as well, and this is all for account security. All right, so the taxpayer is going to get a simple interface that provides them to-do items and documents. The key for taxpayers is what we learned going out to taxpayers is they don't know when to get started, they don't know what's needed, and they don't know when they're done. So we tried to address all of these with the taxpayer experience in Link. We try to make it very clear on here's what your accountant needs, and then we track their progress all the way and let them know when they're done and they've provided everything that you need for the tax return. So when the taxpayer clicks on the to-dos, we take them right into a simple to use interface. They click on yes or no, and we give them encouragement by checking off as they go through the questions and track their progress. So they click, did your marital status change? They say no. They click on next, and we give them the next question. So did you donate money, clothes, cars, or stock? And all they have to do is click on the button. Yes, they did in this case when we check it off. Next, I want to show you the experience for getting documents. So if the taxpayer is on a mobile phone, they're going to have the ability to take pictures. If they're on a computer, they can upload files or make connections. Right now, I'm going to show you how to connect. So on this, when they click Add Document, here's the three options I talked about. There's a Get It For Me option, an Upload, and Picture. And the picture's grayed out since I'm on a computer, but like I said, if I was on a mobile phone, it would be available. Here I'm going to pick Get It For Me, and I want to show you how this works. I think this is a great solution for both you and your client. So when you hit Get It For Me, we bring them to put in your financial institution. Here I'm going to select Fidelity. And then the user will be able to put in their username and password. After they do this, we connect directly to Fidelity to get the digital data most accurate. We'll get the original, get any corrected 1099s. So it's going to come back and say, hey, we got a 1099 int, but there was also a div as well. And you'll notice at the bottom there's a connect automatically. The cool thing about this is next January, right, if your client's answering questions, giving you all the documents they have, they get into this Fidelity, they put in their credentials, and Fidelity tells them, hey, your 1099 is not available yet. If they select this connect automatically, they don't even have to come back into Link. They can leave. We'll go get the document when Fidelity makes them available, and we'll provide them to the taxpayer and to you, the accountant, and let you know that's available. So that's a pretty cool thing we have this year. After the taxpayer has uploaded all the documents, there's a document view which shows everything that's given to the accountant. Up at the top, they can upload any other documents they want to share with you. And then there's a section as well on Receive from Accountant, which this is anything that you can share to get prepared for the tax return, or you can share completed work, share the tax return, anything else. But it's a two-way communication here. So here, this is the last shot of the taxpayer on the progress. They're 100% done, and everything's great for them. So we've tried to make it clear on what's needed, how to get started with this, and then when they're done, we make that very clear. All right, so let's go back to the accountant and think about what that experience is for receiving the data. So first off, there's an Intuit Link dashboard. And this is where you can see all the clients that you've invited. You can see all the progress for your clients. And then we sort this by the last activity. So the clients that have just been active, you can see these progress bars show you who's done. So we talked at the top about starting work that's ready to go, and I know all of you have started working on a tax return. You do everything that you have, and you realize you're missing 3 or 4 documents. And then you have to set it down, and then you have to change your mind to focus on something else. What we want to do here is give you returns that have everything that you need. And we have the intelligence to know everything you requested and what the client has provided. And we're bubbling that up to you here. We also have a client activity feed down the right side that shows you everything that's happened. When you click on the client, click on Sally here. All right, so Sally, what we'll show you here is all the answers to the questions, all the documents, and give you everything you need to do the tax return. There's a couple of interesting things you can do here. There's an add request. So if you need something else, you can click add request and send a new question or a new document request. The notify client, if you want to remind them that, hey, I need to get your stuff, you click notify and we'll send them another email that will send them to the link. And then lastly, there's a download all responses in a CSV file, and then you can download all the files in a zip file as well. Lastly, in Lacert, the same column you use to invite the client, we're going to show you the progress bar. So you can see which clients are ready to go, and the last one there, you can see that they're getting started uploading documents. So Intuit Link's going to give you the documents you need to file the tax return, and also give you visibility into something that you haven't been able to see before, where you're just at the mercy of your clients and when they're going to send you things, to allow you to be a little more proactive in tax season. And we think that this will really help you with your workflow. All right, so next I'm going to show e-signature, and I want to show a demo of this. And the e-signature is really slick and really simple to set up and use. And the great thing about e-signature is in the past you've kind of done all the hard work, right? You got the tax return ready to go, and we were seeing that people had to wait a whole week, 7 days, for clients to sign and return the 8879, which once again is creating that work in progress and stress. And so last year we saw that many of the people were receiving signatures and payments in the same day. And, you know, all the other industries, banking, and real estate, they're all using electronic signatures. People expect it. So let me show you, or before we show you that, I want to ask one more question.
Thanks, Steve. We've got the question number 2 in the polling questions. Which of the following best describes the percentage of clients you work with virtually versus in person? 100% in person, face-to-face, 25% virtual, 75% in person, 50-50 virtual and in person, 75-25 virtual to in person, or 100% virtual. And we'll give you a few seconds. This will be interesting to find out. Steve, do you have any guesses to our prediction as to the outcome of this? We will. Okay, a few more seconds, and once again, don't forget to click submit after you've filled in the little circle. There we go. The majority is 25% virtual to 75% in person.
Great. Yeah, so it looks like we have a lot of representation here. I think, as you can imagine, what I would recommend is starting with your virtual clients on trying to get them to collaborate with you virtually, and it looks like most of you at least have some clients that you already work that way today. All right, so this is eSig. I'm going to break it up the same way. I'm going to start with the accountant, show you how you set it up. I'm going to show you the taxpayer experience, and then lastly, I'll show you what you receive on the at the end of the process. All right, so eSig, you're going to start it similar. This is back to the Lacert client list. There's a column for e-signature. You click on Send. Now here you get a box that allows you to select what you want to send. Here I'm selecting the Federal 8879, and I'm also going to include a watermarked version of the client copy of the tax return. So it's going to say, you know, do not file watermark. After you hit OK here, we bring up the request template. There's a lot of cool things here. One, we pre-fill all the taxpayer information and pre-fill the subject and message. You can edit and change the subject and message if you'd like. Some new things this year, there's a checkbox to include the invoice. This is going to pull from the Lacert invoice and put the amount. You can choose to send it here and edit the amount if you would like. And then down below, there's reminders that you can set up to remind someone to finish the e-sig. So after you get this set up, you click Request e-signature. You get a confirmation that says it's been sent. And that's all you need to do to send it off. So the taxpayer, we've partnered with DocuSign here. We believe they're the best in the industry. They're going to get an email from DocuSign. And when they click on View Documents, it's going to take them to a place to verify their, or actually they're not verified, they put in their information about where you live, zip code, and then what we use that for is to validate their identity. So they're going to get KBAs, which is knowledge-based authentication, and they just go through and answer the questions. Do you have a mortgage with this bank? What type of car did you have? If they miss any questions here, they get 2 more questions, and if they get both those right, they're in. What we saw last year is 92% of the taxpayers were successful with the KBA, and which that's probably a pretty good score on any test. So after they complete the authentication, they're going to accept the terms of DocuSign. And when they hit continue, they'll see the 8879. And it's pre-marked where they need to sign it and where they need to date it. When they click on sign, it's going to bring up a modal. And the taxpayer just types their name in at the top. It produces a signature for them. They can change the style if they'd like. And then they hit adopt and sign. After they do that, it places the signature onto the 8879 and then takes the taxpayer to the date field. On the date field, the taxpayer simply types in the date, and that's all that's needed for the 8879. At the bottom, we have a Pay Now. Taxpayer hits Pay Now. We bring up a modal. We show the amount that you're charging. They put in their credit card information. And when they submit this off, they're done. So they've just signed the document, made the payment, and the taxpayer's done. All right, so now what do you get? If we go to it back, this is back in Lacert. We have a tab here at the top called the e-signature dashboard, and we're continuing to evolve this and enhance this. But in this dashboard, you get to see a list of all the clients, the status of the e-signatures, the payments you've collected, and you can sort the list, obviously, and we give you insights up at the top of it. But it's basically a one-stop shop to see what's happening. And that's basically the end-to-end. What I'd like to do now is turn it over to Jackie to share her experiences and some best practices. Oh, before I do that, though, there's a poll. Sorry, Jackie.
Looks like this is the last polling question. And the question is, when do you establish the workflow you'll use for the upcoming tax year, including any new processes or tools you may implement? October or sooner? November, December, January? Or do you change your workflow throughout the season? Then, of course, there's no right or wrong answer. We just want to get a picture of accountants' practices. Okay, let's take a look and see. And once again, don't forget to click the submit button, and we'll see what we've got. Okay, Jackie, Steve, if you can see that slide, would you like to address it? Most do it in December.
Very interesting. Yeah, it looks like December seems to be the right time, and November, so we're kind of right on schedule this year. And it's also interesting, about 20% of you change it through the season. I hope it's based on learning and adjusting and getting better, and just not it's a lot higher than I would expect. So thank you. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Jackie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jackie Meyer. You heard a little bit about me at the beginning of the session. I'm definitely excited to be here and share some best practice tips and tricks with you. I've got a lot to talk about in a little bit of time, but please feel free to send any Q&A questions in as we go. I would love to help you out from a practitioner perspective. My CPA practice is kind of concierge, small business owners mainly, some high net wealth individuals. We do about 150 returns total, and many of those are accounting clients that we work with at a weekly or monthly level. I have 6 staff that work virtually across the great state of Texas, and we've always kind of called ourselves paperless, but I would say until we moved to this connection suite, we were not ever truly paperless, but now we feel like we can really honestly say that statement. So I love these products. We also use QuickBooks Online for most of our business clients. We mainly serve the service industry, and then, of course, we have some other ones mixed in there as well. As an aside, I use Intuit Tax Online, but I am a former Lacert user and a PFX user, which I saw some people answered in the poll results. So feel free to let me know any questions you have about that. But if there is anything different that I mentioned, Steve, about the Connection Suite and ITO, Intuit Tax Online versus Lacert, please feel free to let me know. All right, so we implemented Link and e-signature for our 1040 clients this past tax season for 2014 returns. It was the first year that these were both available, and we implemented very early. As soon as I saw, the email blast go out, I thought it was a really great solution. And we really use Intuit Solutions 100% now. It allows us to work in our virtual environment without servers. QuickBooks Desktop is the only program that we really locally install on each of our computers, and hopefully eventually we'll get off of that and purely onto QBO. All right, so what drew me to these products? Well, I was very tired as a CPA firm owner of wasting time. It's all about time, right? There was a lot of redundant time and a lot of things that I had to do personally in our virtual environment that I could be doing so much more valuable items instead. So I figured there had to be a better way to automate these processes, and so that's what drew me to these products. At $200 per hour rate, I actually started doing most of the pre- and post-tax process myself, and then, transitioning things as I could as my firm grew to other staff members. but I always had control issues and trust issues when other people were involved. And so anytime that we can streamline things and have a software program take that burden off of us, it's a really, really good feeling. So no matter if you yourself as an owner or admin or tax preparer were doing these processes before, it's definitely worth it to use that billable time for higher value work and not on these things. Now, before using these products, especially Link, but also with the e-signature, we had 10 different places that we would grab information from the clients and send it to the clients. It might be our website portal, emails, so many emails, fax, file sharing sites, and it became overwhelming and confusing not only for us as a firm as to where to find the information, but also to our clients. So how did our tax season go with these products? Well, it was great. As you can tell, I'm really overjoyed with these, and there's some really great new features this year that Steve just talked about that we didn't even have last year, so I'm even more excited about those. But for our firm, it made us look and feel very innovative. I always felt like we were kind of cutting edge, so to speak, for a CPA firm, but these products really kind of took it to a new level. So we actually saved, I'd say, about 15 minutes on the front end using Link, and then another 15 minutes on the back end using e-signature. That doesn't sound like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, let's say I have 100 1040 clients, that's significant time savings. Again, things that I personally might have been doing at 200 per hour that I didn't have to do anymore. I was able to develop Link templates, so then I could hand those off as busy season ramped up to other staff to send out, so it became pretty easy. We wrote out procedures incorporating Link and e-signature. So, we not only had internal procedures, which aren't that many actually because there's not that much to the implementation of these products, but also to our clients. So we sent out an electronic engagement letter, and we didn't have access to the beautiful Lacert one that Steve showed us last year, but we used DocuSign to be consistent. And we put in that engagement letter what our expectations for the client were, as well as what their expectations should be about us. And that included that we would be sending all of their 1040 8879s via e-signature for them to sign. We also passed on that cost, which is about $5 per return, I believe, to the clients, and never heard a complaint. And then we also were very clear about the fact that we wanted to collect documentation up front electronically and not via paper. And so, I think setting those expectations is very important. Also, by the way, if you do send out electronic engagement letters, you could also throw in ACH forms as a side tip, which we started to do this year. And we collect retainers up front, so they could, sign that engagement letter, sign the ACH form so we could auto draft their accounts, and then it all kind of flows together really easy. Now, while these products are really meant for 1040s currently, I actually used Link for some business returns as well. We had some, monthly clients. We might have had a few final year-end tax adjusting journal entries to do, or a few follow-up questions. And so you can, model Link and create templates for whatever purpose that you want. And I see it, really becoming integrated more and more on the business side in the future as well. And I keep telling Intuit, I can't wait to see eSig released for business returns as well. Now, from the client perspective, you never know when you're implementing these things. My clients tend to be pretty tech-oriented. We've got a lot of business clients in the IT industry. But, I asked for feedback as we started with Link, and it was actually 100% positive. I honestly expected the clients to have some concerns. Link does ask each individual question, by itself. It's kind of itemized out. You have to attach the document to each question. It sounds kind of painful, right? But they didn't mind at all. I think it actually made it easier for them to organize their thought process and organize those documents to submit to us as well. Now, in regards to going from paper drop-offs that we had to scan, we always were scanning on the front end before tax prep and then prepping in Adobe PDF. We went from about 40% paper drop-offs to probably less than 15%, maybe even 10. I didn't personally count it, but I was just really excited when it happened, and we saved hours and hours of scanning, resolution issues that might come along with that, and of course, you know, the back-end OCRing and all that jazz that happens in the PDF. Now, out of 11040s that we had, Link we actually kind of slowly integrated the clients into based on who did well with checklists last year. So in Link, we sent out 60 checklists to 1040 clients, and we had about a 50% return rate. Now, that may not sound like a lot, but I know you guys know as practitioners that the return rate of organizers is pretty bad, right? I mean, I think I heard a statistic recently that it's probably about 20%. So we did even better than what you would expect through that, you know, mailing the paper organizer process or even sending a PDF of it, which is what we had done the year before with these clients. So I wanted to walk through a little bit of the best practices for pre-tax, which involves Link, of course, 1040 preparation kind of in the middle there, and then our post-tax steps as well. So pre-tax with the Link, I mentioned that we used a PDF organizer from within ITO for our 2013 tax season. 2014, Link enabled us to send all those questions securely, each itemized out through that Link site that Steve showed us. It did take a little bit of time to develop the templates, but once we had that in place, it became very easy to standardize the procedures internally and get those shot out to the clients. What I really loved is getting rid of all those long chain emails back and forth. You know, you send all those questions to the client, here's what I need, your W-2, did you have any cash charity? You know, and they never actually respond to every single question. It ends up being this really long, intricate chain of emails where you're not even sure kind of where you started or where you ended. Or the clients might even call you up to talk about it. And it's great to talk to the clients, but you don't have any written documentation on what they told you. So Link really gave us a clear audit trail to know who did what when, and that provided a lot of assurance to me. You know, a while back, several years ago, we had an example, you know, mistakes happen with people involved, right? And so we had this time when we had emailed a client to ask them for their business mileage to add to their return. And they called us up, gave it to one of my staff on the phone. They added in a tax adjusting journal entry in our Excel work paper file, and we finalized the return. Well, later on, I actually found out that the mileage that my preparer thought that the client gave us was total mileage and not business mileage. So total mileage could be 100,000 miles on a car one year, but only 5,000 business. Fortunately, it wasn't that big of a discrepancy, but it still was very, you know, upsetting that something like that could happen. And so I kind of vowed to streamline our procedures, make sure we have that written documentation, and Link really lets you do that. I also kind of broke out things in Link a little bit more than the standard template might do. Steve showed us an example of, you know, that question, did you donate cash, property, those kind of things to charity? In our template at my firm, we had a specific question just for cash charitable contributions and then another one for non-cash, because we know that we have, you know, extra forms and extra details that we might need to fill in there. And so that's an idea of how you might be able to streamline collection a little bit more. And then once we did receive the data back, we were able to export it to an Excel file, all the Q&A and then the documentation that was provided for our own internal tax work paper file, and then we could, of course, copy that data to the return or wherever it needed to go. All right, so for 1040 preparation, we got daily emails, kind of know what was going on with the client, so that was really easy to know. We were shown the percentage progress, like Steve showed us earlier, so we knew when we could start the returns. I talked about link. Really the only last thing I want to say is that you can also attach extra Excel work papers like rental organizer or a Schedule C organizer if that is lacking in your template. Now, the only step that you really have to do to prepare for e-signature to add to your workflow procedures is adding in your client's email addresses in the tax return, which you might already have. And you can actually use one taxpayer's email address for both spouses if you don't have access to both of the spouse's emails or you don't, tend to correspond with both of them. So let's get into that post-tax e-signature process real fast. Like I said, make sure you add those email addresses in the tax return input and not just on the e-signature request form. I don't know about LaCert, but in ITO, it did not carry forward if you did that. So as long as you add it to the client's basic info in the tax return itself, you're good to go for it to stay next year. There were only a few clients that couldn't actually answer those knowledge-based questions, and I really think that was more of a personal issue or memory issues of things that might have happened with their credit 20 years ago than anything that Intuit or DocuSign could control. You can cancel and resend the request if they do contact you with a problem, or of course just use a different backup method if you need to send the returns a different way. I also added post-tax notes like watch out for this particular issue next year or let's meet for tax planning within that e-signature request email. Just make sure that you have a copy of that out in your work papers so that you know what you put because you actually can't access that email feed sometimes later on. And then make sure, favorite feature, send the reminders every day with eSig. Check off that box. Have eSig take control of following up with a client so that you don't have to. And then also check off to expire the request. No one wants to be a babysitter. And so this was kind of the one thing that got me into these products, honestly, to begin with, and I'm thrilled. So those are my best practices. I would love to hear any Q&A that you guys have. And then my Twitter information is at the bottom of the slide. I also have a couple blogs that you can check out. Please feel free to shoot me a message on Twitter. I would love to answer any further questions you have then as well. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jackie. So I showed you today the LaCert experience. I want to be clear that we have similar integrations for ITO and Pro Series. And also I'd like to announce a special deal we're offering. It's get 20 for 10. So if you invite 10 clients to use Link, we'll give you 20% off e-signature. And I'd like to address some of the key questions that have come up through chat. Thank you for sending them. So while we're talking about this deal, a couple people have asked about cost. So Link is included with the purchase of LaCert Pro Series or ITO. And e-signature starts at the highest price is $5 a return, and then based on volume in this deal we're offering you here, you can get it much lower. Next, folks are asking about security. Lots of questions on security on the taxpayer side. I know that's critical for you as preparers, and it's also critical for us at Intuit. Our whole business rides on security. We're experts in the cloud. Everything on the taxpayer side, it's all 256-bit encryption. All the data is in the U.S. on Intuit servers. Let's see. We have a couple of questions on document management, like do you work with Smart Vault? Do you work with eFile Cabinet? And if you look at, you know what I might do, just in the interest of time, I'm not going to show you the screenshot, but when you get all the documents, you can take it and get it in a zip file and then put it in whatever document management system you used. We created Link to help you with the collaboration, to make it easy for your taxpayer. And we didn't want to specify you have to use this system because we know all of you are using different document management systems, and it's critical for your workflow and your trust. And so really what we are is it's almost like secure email. And just while we're talking about security and document management, do not use email to send secure personal information. It is not secure. But we got a solution for you in Link. A couple other questions on e-sig. Someone asked, what if they're the 8% that can't complete the KBA? And in that case, you just have to go the old way. So you send it out to 100 clients, then there's going to be 8 more than likely that you'll need to facilitate signature, whether you do it through email or have them come in, however you would do it today. But or you can resend it, yeah, unless they never will know the answers to the question, or they have memory loss. So there's another question that several of you were asking about. Can I only send the engagement letter in Link, and then how do I attach forms? So you have complete control over what goes into Link, and if you go into that Link workflow in Lacert, you could check the box to not include the checklist questionnaire and just send the engagement letter if that's what you wanted. The other thing we do with the engagement letter, if the engagement letter hasn't been accepted by the taxpayer, we have them accepted and put their name in, it's going to be the first thing they see in their to-do list until they finish that out. You also have the ability, when you set up a request to a client, you can attach an Excel sheet or any other documentation you want to share with them, or if you have a template you want them to use to fill out, all of those things can be attached in there. So I know I didn't address every question there, but I did get a chance to look through, and those were some key ones. Let's see what else we have. So we hit the cost. So someone's asking here, Jackie, how do you communicate these changes to the clients and get their buy-in? And did they have to, were you using other systems like different portals or website organizers, and what was kind of the feedback and transition, and how'd you communicate it to your clients?
Okay, so I mentioned that we sent the electronic engagement letter up front, and so that's how we actually communicated how we would be doing the process for the tax season. So we put in that engagement letter that it's assumed that they would be using the e-signature feature unless they told us otherwise, which I think I might have had one person check off they didn't want to do that. And once I explained to them that it's probably going to cost them more than $5 for our time to figure, to send it a different way, which it always does, they were on board. In regards to Link, it's also just an expectation that we set in that engagement letter. There's always, there's new ways that we can send out different video responses to clients via email and that kind of thing. And so you could even pop in a little video of you explaining the process to them to add that link to the engagement letter too. So I would just say that, document it out. You don't necessarily have to verbally talk to all your clients about this information by any means. And they tend to just adapt because they really liked what we did this year better than all the different, portal and that kind of thing that we used last year.
That's awesome. Thanks, Jackie. So I've got another question here that says, if my customers aren't tech savvy, can I upload documents for them? And do documents have to be uploaded? Can I check a box that says the document was received and not worry about scanning? So great question. A couple of things that I noticed, we had lots of accountants using Link last year, and every accountant that I talked to was surprised with someone that ended up using Link because they thought, oh, they're not tech savvy, and so you don't know if you unless you try. And then we also have on the taxpayer detail view, there is a box you can check to basically lock the request and say it's done and you've received it. So if you do get, some of the documents through Link and then they drop the rest off, you can clean it up manually in Link to show that you've received all the documents. And, kind of on the same side on the tech savvy, the other thing is there's no risk If you send out a link to an invite to link, it doesn't take very long, like I showed you today, and it's basically an email to your client. It didn't cost you any money, very little time to send it, and then if they respond and have a great experience, there's only upside for you. And if they don't do anything, there was no cost to you.
Yeah, I had about a dozen clients that sent most of their information via link, and then we might have been missing one K1 that they said they would drop off at a later time. And so we would just check off that box to show that it's complete, and then it was very clear to all the staff that we were done with that information. Awesome.
So thank you very much for attending today and listening to what me and Jackie had to say about Intuit Link and e-signature. I wish you all a lot of success in this tax season, and you'll receive a follow-up email with the documentation from today that will help you implement any of these solutions this year.
Okay, thank you, Steve. That brings us to the end of today's session. We thank everybody for tuning in, and thanks to Intuit Client Connection Suite for sponsoring us, and of course, Steve and Jackie, that was great, both of you. Thank you for giving us your wisdom on streamlining your workflow. Best of luck to everyone on the upcoming tax season. Thank you, everybody.